prices up as well.
The last renovation we needed to do was prior to COVID 2019. It's a new house we moved into and the layout didn't suit us.
And have you got your eye on any other changes to the house at the moment?
We have, but we've probably just not got the money to do it at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah, so we're holding out.
Having a new kitchen and knocking through to the garage, utility downstairs. We bought the house in the middle of the pandemic and now slowly doing it up. Originally we were having a full-on extension and now we're not. We're renovating what we've got, so we have cut the plans back quite a lot.
And was the main reason for that financial?
That was the reason. All financial, yeah.
Done a new bathroom about 1.5 years ago. Spent £15,000 on it at that point, a little bit of spare cash as well. I'm just focused on the house. Actually built a bar in the garden during the pandemic as well. I need to do the kitchen, it's in the right state, but no, we're holding on fire until everything's so expensive these days, so yeah, we're really counting pennies.
No, we haven't. It's something that's in the pipeline, so I'm always looking for ideas and stuff, but nothing as yet.
And what's the main reason for that you haven't had it done?
It's financials, really. Like Christmas is around the corner now, and then you want the summer holiday, and then it's your girl's birthday, it's one thing after another. So at the moment, we're parking it.
Just by chance, I'm trying to get the bathroom done now. So started 3 weeks ago, and hopefully the last week now. I'm close to retirement or retirement, so I thought a good chance to get things done before I put my feet up.
Some homeowners can't say that today, homeowners in Manchester. John Stevenson is a retail analyst at Peel Hunt, and Matthew O'Grady is co-founder of Thomas Matthew Kitchens and Furniture in Dorset. Hi both, and welcome both. Matthew, tell us a bit about your business then and how you got started.
Yeah, hi Winifred, thanks for having me on the show. We are a family-run local business based in Poole, Dorset, and we work across the south coast. We started out of my nan's garage 5 or so years ago, and we've been helping people transform their kitchens and bedrooms ever since.
So what is it that you do? Do you fit ready-made kitchens or do you make them yourself?
So we have a joinery factory where we build everything sort of bespoke, made to order, all of the doors, cabinets. We have a spray shop in-house. We sort of build everything custom made to people's specifications.
Is this slowdown in home improvements affecting you?
So we have seen a bit of a quieter year this year, with a sort of drop off in the number of inquiries that have come in, and then also how many projects we are winning for the quotes that we're putting out.
I guess your prices must have risen, haven't they, Matthew, just because of inflation?
Yeah, so during COVID, the prices of materials seemed to go up, and they didn't come down again. With the inflation, we've had to sort of increase prices year over year, really.
John Stevenson, what's happening then at Matthew's Kitchen Company? A bit of a slowdown. It's a general thing.
Yeah, no, very much so. I think, COVID brought around an element of pull forward to Europe. And obviously people were still accessing, very cheap mortgages at that point.
An element of pull forward. We had nothing else to do but stuff, be at home. We saved money, we spent it at home.
Yeah, exactly right. People wanted home offices, you spent more time, big kitchens, extensions, and some of that work you had builders who'd been booked out for a couple of years at a time. So a lot of that was still happening last year. And now, obviously, when you then compound that with the impact of inflation and everything else, it's been a tough time for people. And as the videos say, it's an easy thing, not to do a big ticket project, and that's exactly what we've seen. Having said that, I'm actually much more upbeat. I think we are through the worst of it. What we're not seeing is an upswing in consumer activity, but I think things will get better as we come into 2025.
Why? Why do you think that?
I guess if you look at the kind of macro indicators, they're all actually better despite the stuff ahead of the budget. So,
what about the Middle East? Sorry, we're just hearing from the Food Foundation they worry about food prices going up, oil prices going up because of what's happening in the Middle East.
Absolutely right, and there are always things that are out there to test how households are feeling and what confidence is like and what happens with inflation. But in in terms of where we are today, notwithstanding obviously all the shocks we've had already, or what else may be ahead, consumers actually are much more confident. So personal finance expectations, which is probably the biggest kind of flag or forward indicator, if you like, to whether consumers are willing to spend, that's been negative for 3 years. Now it turned positive just after the start of this year. Disposable income, real and absolute, is up. We've got increasing spending power. We mentioned energy costs 2 years ago. That sort of mythical average household was paying about $2,500 coming into autumn. Now energy prices went up again in October, but that mythical household is now spending $1,500, not $2,500. So we're in a better place, but not surprisingly, I think everyone is generally just much more cautious, and it takes time for people to feel comfortable spending again. And those priorities will be different.
Yes, John, some people are calling this a period of self-austerity.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, savings are going up. So if you look at the savings ratio, it's going up. If you look at mortgages, obviously there are still people in different places. So some I've got to roll off those very cheap mortgages from a couple of years ago. But generally, people are paying down more on the mortgage where they can. So that's exactly right. People have more money today, but they're choosing not to spend it.
Because we're living through this series of shocks, aren't we? Matthew, how does the situation now compare with that period, during and straight after the pandemic?
So straight after the pandemic was a really busy time. I think people were spending more time at home and then trying to get those jobs ticked off the list that have been on their mind for a while. They also were saving money by not going on holiday and then putting that towards home improvements. So it was good for us, but a little bit of a challenging time with the materials and the prices being a bit unstable.
If you're making, Matthew, bespoke furniture, you're making it for people who are better off, aren't you? I mean, anything that is called bespoke, costs a lot more money.
Yeah.
They used to say that those people don't feel the shocks. So what do they say to you? You spend a lot of time in their homes, but why are they self-imposing austerity on them?
I think maybe just with a bit of uncertainty around their own businesses, just making them a bit more reluctant to spend. But they might have the money there for the luxury items, but just be holding back until things are sort of settled down a little bit. We're looking quite good for next year with bookings in. So it's not all doing and doing at the moment. But just towards the tail end of this year, we just felt the market was just slowing down a little bit for us personally.
So some of those better off people and their business owners themselves, so they're feeling what you're feeling.
Yeah, we find we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. It sort of has a knock-on effect from the end customer really all the way up the chain.
John Stevenson, tell us about some of those big players I mentioned then, DFS, Topps Tiles. What are things looking for them?
Yeah, again, I mean, I say DFS is probably the sort of perfect flag carrier example, I guess. So yeah, I mean, DFS is the market leader for upholstery and sofas in the UK. It's got about 40% market share, also owns Sofology. They just reported profits for the last financial year of about 10 million. Now to put that in context, in 2021, they made just over 100 million.
Wow.
So we are, absolutely bottom of the cycle, and it's an easy thing to defer. Is obviously, a sofa or something else that you can maybe stretch out for another year or so. And normal for DFS might be, let's say, 60-70 million profit, and it's all down to the market. Household budgets under stress, so it's just something you don't have to buy. If we look at carpets or tiles, similar stories. Tile market's down 10-15%, clearly, ancillary purchase to bathrooms and kitchens, which again are down by double-digit levels. Even the electricals market, has been down by double-digit. But if you look at people like Currys and AO, they're now sort of just about back into growth and back to DFS. The sort of signs that the sort of order intake and inquiries are just starting to turn a bit. So we haven't seen an upswing in consumer activity, definitely not. To previous points, people are saving more, still a bit cautious. But I think we're starting to see things come back to normal. So I feel comfortable through the worst. We're just not really seeing sort of a very sharp recovery.
And we are doing that thing, the lipstick effect, treating ourselves to small things. So DIY is doing really well, people doing small jobs, and also homewares. that were in the doldrums for ages.
Yeah, Homeworks have been pretty good. Exactly right. You know, you look at another example in my world, be someone like Donnell. They just had another great set of results, and exactly that. The average typical price might be, you know, £15 to £20. So if you can't buy a sofa, people will buy cushions, they will buy a throne, they will get a new rug. You know, you can still update your home without having to sort of spend, you know, significant amounts of money and go and get a mortgage, and that's exactly what we have seen. Home-wise actually tends to be pretty resilient, you know, through the economic cycle, which surprises people. But yeah, exactly right. And I think, you know, as we come into Christmas, the weather's turned, it's feeling just a bit more autumnal. Those are the kind of categories that actually do quite well.
Thanks. That was John Stevenson and Matthew O'Grady. Good luck with your business goes well. We were talking about push payment fraud at the very start of the programme, that.com, where criminals persuade you to transfer money from your bank account into theirs. Well, a listener's been in touch with us to pass on a warning that the telephone digital switchover that is set to take place by 2027 is being used now to try to con people. Lorraine Sensible from Wiltshire got in touch with us. She's been deaf since she was a child, and she bought a phone that both she and her husband, who isn't deaf, can use. A local council social services recommended this phone to them, and they assured them that it would work fine even after the digital switchover. And then Lorraine had a cold call from someone saying exactly the opposite.
The first phone call I got was about August, and it was a very, very nice lady, very warm sounding, genuinely concerned because here, and it sort of mentioned that we're going to have a digital switch, which I knew about everywhere. And it just went on, and it was in that sort of sympathetic way. And then sort of said, my company will actually provide you an alternative what will actually deal with your phone, because it would cost about £60.
So they were looking for you to give them £60, they said, to make this special phone that you have work after the switchover.
Which, as I said, I knew was compatible. When we bought it, it was important to make sure that was clear. The company we bought it from, they made it clear it was as well. As did the social services, which one of theirs, one they recommended. So it was all sweetly done. And I just found that my arm just pushed at my back to buy it. And I said, no, this is rubbish. Anyway, that was the first time in August. And then in September, and up to the day I actually wrote to you, they were getting more and more frequent, very similar phone calls, always by a woman. It always sounded very warm and sympathetic, not aggressive at all, just very, very, very persuasive.
Very mean, that, isn't it, to put someone sympathetic on the line? Clever, but very mean.
And it was mean, and that company, the different companies obviously did that perfect. And when I say different, because the voices were different and different names were mentioned in companies.
Do you think these are real companies, or do you think they're just scam companies?
Well, I think it's scam companies. It was very difficult to get on the name of the
I'm assuming that you went to your local council, to social services, and told them about it. Nobody came to tell us so that we can tell others.
Yeah, I contacted the hearing team, told them what was happening, and asked them to do what they did. I got the impression that the other firm, and made it very clear that my phone was digital compatible, and they made that clear.
That's a very sensible business in Wiltshire. Councillor Heather Kidd is chair of the Safer and Stronger Communities Board at the Local Government Association that represents local councils in London Wales. And Andrew Lockton is a tech expert from the consumer group Which. And welcome both, and thank you for your time. Councillor Kidd, we spoke to Ofcom, the regulator, about what had happened to Lorraine, and they said they're almost certain this is a scam because no one will be switched from analog to digital phone without being told, and no one will be asked for any kind of a payment. Can you tell us what should happen?
Yes, they should all be contacted by their particular provider, and I think this is where there's such a range of providers these days that actually people get very confused. They will be contacted by the provider, and usually in writing. Indeed, I have been contacted here by my particular phone provider. So that should happen. I think there is often a problem in that the letter will come and then nothing happens for months and people forget about it. So whatever happens, the service of the switchover is free, and that is the most important message. It's free for everybody.
How many people will have no internet and will have landlines that can't be switched easily?
Quite a number, and I mean, if I just look at problems across Shropshire where I'm a councillor, there are quite a lot of older and vulnerable people who do not have a computer and do not have Wi-Fi, and indeed some do not have, they're not connected to electricity and they're dependent on the copper to keep things running. So there are a number of issues around this. And unfortunately, much of the information that goes out to warn people is done digitally. So there's a whole piece of work to be done, which many councils are doing, with those people who don't have access to the internet or access digitally on smartphones.
Andrew Lockley, we've reported on you and yours very genuine problems many people have, particularly people living in the best of health. They were being offered free upgrades to digital by BT targets to meet, and then they were finding their own phones' emergency call alarms didn't work. And as a result of that, the switchovers were postponed for a while. Tommy, where are we with it now?
Yeah, so it's as your other guest pointed out, it's quite a complicated picture out here. You've got a lot of devices that have got legacy connections to old phone networks. So telecare services, panic alarms, burglar alarms. There's an awful lot of burglar alarms out there. We've heard people being targeted for those. The switchover was originally supposed to happen next year. It's actually been pushed back to 2027, I believe, and I think that reflects the complexity of the picture. But obviously, it's creating a kind of bit of a perfect storm, a market for scammers who are kind of steaming in there, trying to target people who are obviously very worried about getting access to important services.
So Andrew, what Lorraine has described, you've heard that story in lots of different guises. People ringing up and saying, oh, your burglar alarm won't work.
Yes, I looked at a case a while ago where I think someone's being charged, or trying to be charged, thousands of pounds to upgrade their burglar alarm system to digital voice. It really is unacceptable because you're exploiting people, and we need these things. You know, these need things for security, communication, health, vital health. These things can be looking after people if they have a fall or all sorts of things. So it's really, really scary. And scammers are looking for scale. They want big events. Big things where they can kind of know people, a lot of people are affected. That's why we always get bugged by these things. Saying, yeah, I've got every parcel or a Royal Mail parcel. They know what gets people paying online. And they're looking for those big moments because they know they can find people to target.
So Councillor Kidd, you're saying that the key to this is if you're being asked for money, then it's a scam. If
you should report it. It is a scam. No council will ask you for, or any provider should be asking you for money over the telephone. All these services are free. Please make sure that if you've had one of these and you're very, very worried about it, make sure that you contact separately your contractor, whoever it is that is providing your service, so that you can find out directly from them and not from the person on the phone. And that's the fail-safe. So you go to your phone bill, you check the phone number, you ask.
Easier said than done, though, isn't it, sometimes to get in touch with your provider? You're saying, though, that local authorities are working on this. So people who have these burglar alarms and these panic alarm buttons, or the things you wear around your neck that depend on the copper line signal, will they have those replaced free of charge?
In some cases, yes, and not in others. But again, it's about your provider, making sure you're talking to your actual provider. So there are issues around exactly that, because often people have paid for those to be put in the first place. But many of them are actually upgrading and doing it for free, but not all. But go back to your original provider for your panic alarm to check that you're not going to be paying somebody else entirely for something you won't get.
Andrew, look, we've got about a minute left. Before we leave it, the providers are saying that these new digital connected phones give them lots of opportunities to help people to check whether or not they're being scammed. Is that true?
It is in part, yes. I mean, digital voice provides a lot more tools to combat scam callers, block calls. It does require data sharing across all providers, which is vital because the system's only as good as the data you put into it. But the tools are there. The thing that we're still concerned about, though, is spoofing of calls. So we can pretend to be can cause you one, but if someone's pretending to be someone else, it becomes even more scary and potentially effective. So we definitely need to see that move forward, and Ofcom is looking at it.
Welcome back to the story. Andrew Lockham from Rich, Councillor Haddock from the Local Government Association. Thank you. That's it for today. Tomorrow it's our phone in and we're asking, are you planning a wedding? And what's it going to cost? The average cost of a wedding in the UK is, wait for it, now more than £20,000, but obviously there are huge variations in what people pay. Last week the BBC told the story of 100 couples tying the knot on a single day, paying £100 each, and it got us thinking. So if you are gearing up to get married, how much are you going to spend? Are you trying to do it on a budget maybe? What are the best ways to cut the costs in your experience? Or maybe you've been put off by the expenses or you're not going to bother. Please get in touch with us about that right now. You can email us right now, you and yours, at bbc.co.uk. Include your phone number, because we may want to get back to you. I'll be here tomorrow to take your calls. Thanks for listening today.
You know what was produced in Salford by Johnny Film Records. It was a BBC Audio North production. Now, with the weather prospects, here's Louise Lear.
Thanks, Johnny. Good afternoon. Well, after a quiet weekend of weather, the story is changing. Yes, it's going to continue to stay pretty mild, but quite showery over the next couple of days. And then from the middle part of the week, the winds will strengthen and change direction, so noticeably colder for all of us. But if we continue through the rest of today, starting from Scotland, we've got some heavier bursts of rain across the far north and the east. That's going to gradually drift its way north and east for the rest of the afternoon. A few scattered showers tucking in behind. Top temperatures in Scotland and Northern Ireland, cloudy but brighter skies later on, perhaps peaking at 13 or 14 Celsius. For England and Wales, it's sunny spells and scattered showers. The showers will become more frequent, more widespread, driven in by a southwesterly wind and push their way steadily north and east. But for the next few hours, if you dodge the showers and keep the sunshine, pleasantly mild out there, highs of 18 or 19 degrees. Into the early evening, a line of sharp thundery downpours will continue to develop across southwest England, South Wales, and these will push their way steadily north and east, heavy with hail and thunder. It could make some tricky driving conditions into the early evening and early hours of Tuesday morning. So as we go into Tuesday morning, that line of rain will be pushing its way out of northern England and sitting across the Scottish borders. Tuesday on the whole will be a case of sunny spells and scattered showers. Into Wednesday, you may well have heard about Hurricane Kirk. Well, it won't be a hurricane by the time it moves towards the shores on Wednesday, and it'll be pushing across Europe, not the UK. But it will introduce this cooler air, and that means a noticeable difference to the feel.
Thanks, Louise. The first official Archers podcast arrives later this week, every Friday evening from 7:15, only on BBC Sounds, and with exclusive access to the cast and production team, Emma Freud and guests will explore the issues of the week, such as this one perhaps. Thursday, Judgment Day. I would give anything to go back, do things differently. Not get in the car with Alice, just go home, or help Alice, but take more care. Or just not lied. I've hurt so many people I really care about. Part of me wanted to get sent out, but it all feels so real now. What about my business? What about Mum? How will people react if I walk free? What happens next?
It's time up for George, The Archers on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds on Thursday night at 7.
This is BBC Radio 4.
Hello and welcome to The World at One with me, Johnny Diamond.
We lost our son here who was at the party. He was murdered in 9 o'clock in 20 minutes.
Israel remembers its darkest day. But rocket fire and military losses remind Israelis and the world of the tightrope the nation walks. We'll hear live from northern Israel and speak to the former Foreign Secretary Jack Straw. Sir Simon Sharma will reflect on the events of October the 7th and the year that has passed.
It was a sense of kind of here we go again, and a sense really also of how naive we've been to think that something like October the 7th might not happen.
Also wanted, a botanist to follow in the footsteps of Charles Darwin.
The day has passed delightfully. Delight itself, however, is a weak term to
Across the world, vigils and memorials and ceremonies are being held to mark the first anniversary of the Hamas attacks in Israel, in which 1,200 people were killed and 251 were taken hostage. Israel, Hamas and Hezbollah have all launched assaults today as the conflict sparked by the attacks continues. Our correspondent John Donson reports from Jerusalem.
1 year ago, Israel's national trauma began, its powerful military suffering its worst ever defeat to a far inferior force. Today, the country marked that moment. President Herzog joined a ceremony at the site of the Nova Music Festival, where 350 partygoers were killed by Hamas gunmen. 12 months on, Israelis are still grieving, but they're divided. There's anger from the families of some of the hostages still being held in Gaza that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu has not done more to secure a ceasefire deal. And over 12 months, Israel has made Gaza pay a very heavy price. More than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed and 2 million displaced. The Strip has been left in ruins. And the war is not over. Hamas, though diminished, is still standing, and the conflict has now engulfed the region.
Officials in Lebanon say at least 10 firefighters have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on the south of the country. Hezbollah has continued firing rockets into northern Israel and into southern Gaza. Civilians have been ordered to evacuate ahead of a new Israeli offensive there. Our Middle East correspondent Hugo Beshega reports from Beirut.
This morning, Israeli airstrikes continued in Beirut and southern Lebanon, areas where Hezbollah has a strong presence. In the south, the Lebanese health ministry said at least 10 firefighters were killed in an Israeli attack on a municipal building in the town of Badasha. The Israeli ground invasion is expanding, with more soldiers being deployed. Hezbollah has continued to fire rockets at Israel. Some penetrated the country's air defenses, and there were hits in Haifa and Tiberias. In Gaza, Israel has issued new evacuation orders as it steps up its air and ground offensive against Hamas. For its part, Hamas said it launched rockets at Tel Aviv, setting off air raid sirens. The Israeli military said 7 were intercepted.
Downing Street says the Prime Minister is focused on delivering the change he was elected to carry out after the departure of Sue Gray as his Chief of Staff. Ms Gray's resignation followed recent weeks in which the government has been beset by rows about her salary and freebies given to cabinet ministers and MPs. Our political correspondent Helen Catt reports.
As Parliament returns this afternoon, Downing Street is under new management, behind the scenes. The Prime Minister has promoted his long-term aide Morgan McSweeney, who ran Labour's election campaign, to be his new Chief of Staff. Ms Gray has resigned and taken a demotion to become the Prime Minister's envoy to the Council of Nations and Regions. Sir Keir decided last week that she could no longer stay in her previous role following months of leaks and briefings about power struggles with Mr McSweeney and criticism of how she was doing the job, which culminated in her salary being revealed. The Prime Minister has also made other appointments to strengthen his team, particularly in communications, as he hopes to move on from a rocky start to Labour's time in government.
An undercover BBC investigation has found 27 food outlets, including one branch of Sainsbury's, had misled the public about their food hygiene ratings. Secret recordings found numerous places rated 0 and 1 were lying about their scores. Guy Lynn carried out his investigation in London.
By law, food establishments in England, Wales and Northern Ireland are inspected and given hygiene ratings from 0 to 5 to reassure customers about food hygiene standards. Secret recording by the BBC caught businesses, including a branch of Sainsbury's in East London, misleading customers. That store displayed a 5 rating, when it actually scored a 0 after inspectors found poor cleanliness and mouse droppings. Sainsbury's claimed the rating has now been updated, and its rating has since improved. Numerous other places lie outright about their ratings. Consumers are being urged to always verify ratings on the Food Standards Agency website.
A GP in Sunderland has admitted attempting to kill his mother's long-term partner by disguising himself as a nurse and poisoning him with a fake COVID booster jab. The toxin caused Patrick O'Hara, who was 71, to develop a life-threatening disease. 53-year-old Thomas Kwan, who's on trial at Newcastle Crown Court, will be sentenced on Thursday. The European Space Agency is due to launch a mission to study an asteroid system more than 7 million miles away as part of plans to protect Earth from flying space rocks. The Hera spacecraft will look at what happened after a ship was deliberately sent to collide with a small moon called Dimorphos, which is part of the system. Here's our science.